Hello, hello, Facebook. It is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. If you are joining me at lunch, I'm hoping you're having a good lunch. As you may have seen over the past couple of days, we are hopping on here to celebrate 10 years as a trivia company. We've been joining you guys for 10 years, since 2007. If any of you have been around that long, thank you. And those of you who have come along since, thank you as well. So to celebrate the 10 years, we are going to look over the first show that Last Call ever did 10 years ago. And we are going to compare that with some questions from tonight's show. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that because we're not going to give you answers. But if you want to go play trivia, check out lastcallusa.com and figure out where you can play tonight. So, hopping into things, I pulled up our first show and got a TV question, was the very first question. And what we're going to do is look at the wording, kind of the hints given in the question, if any, and see what we could do to make that better and make it more of a last call approved question. So the first question was, what is Carrie Heffernan's occupation on the TV show King of Queens? Now, since this is from 2007, some of these are were more relevant back then. But, I mean, King of Queens, that is a very good show, so you might know that answer still. So we are given a person's name, we're given the TV show, we are not given what that person is in relation to the TV show, how big of a character they are, who they're related to in relation to other characters. So that's an important thing to remember when writing a question. So if this question were to be asked today or in the near future, we might include who Carrie is. Is she a main character? Is she the sister of a main character? Is she the wife of a main character? So that would give you guys a little bit of a hint of, oh, okay, I've never seen the show before, or I've only kind of watched the show a little bit, but I remember the wife. I don't remember that her name was Carrie. So that's one thing you could do. Or you could say, you could give information on what Doug, her husband, does. So maybe say, differing greatly from the fact that Doug is a package delivery guy, what does Carrie Heffernan do, or what is her occupation on the TV show? So that's kind of a little bit of insight on the TV question. So another question, our third question, I'm skipping over the second one. Who did the Green Bay Packers defeat on January 15th, 1967 at Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum in Super Bowl I? First of all, does anybody know the answer to that? Are you seeing comments, Aiden?
Yeah, Aaron wanted to let us know that the Keurig lid is up.
Oh, it's up? Yeah, it is. We're getting ready to brew some coffee. Because it's the middle of the day, we need to wake up, and it's the middle of the week. So,
Brooklyn had a comment, differing greatly. I like that sentence, that it starts with that. It makes it much more interesting.
Yeah. See, it's all about kind of telling a story through the question to give tidbits to people that, if you do know the question or the content of the question really well, you're already probably going to have a good head start on what the answer is going to be. But giving people who might not be that, knowledgeable about certain topics a little hints throughout the question. That's the biggest thing in making it fun for everybody. Because if you asked a question, about King of Queens and nobody had seen it, which you should watch it because it's a great show, it just wouldn't be as fun. But giving little hints throughout could help you get there.
It looks like Dice in Portland thinks he knows the answer to the Super Bowl question.
Yeah?
He thinks it is the Chiefs. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great job, Dice.
Kansas City Chiefs. So, in that question, again, who did they defeat, or who did the Packers defeat in Super Bowl I? You could, there are some folks out there who play who don't like sports at all, but they might know little nuggets throughout history. So you could say how many times the Chiefs have been back since Super Bowl one, or how many total they've been, and that might help them out a little bit because you know the Chiefs haven't been there that many times. So if you gave them the exact amount, they could get to the question. So
Nathan said that midday bourbon is more excited than midday coffee. And then Phyllis, our upstairs neighbor, asked if she could bring us one upstairs while she's watching.
Yeah, love bourbon. We do have a bourbon bar here in the office, so bourbon is always welcome. It's not always consumed midday on Wednesday, but there's there's a time and place for everything, and I'm up for it. Maybe next Wednesday at noon we'll have some bourbon.
Phyllis, come on down. We're ready for you.
So, another question from our first show, and I think that's great, Dice. Thank you for answering. Maybe we will give a little bit of time for people to answer, and if they have a guess. So, history. This one, it does give enough information because of the content. What ancient city was unearthed in 1870 after a careful analysis of Homer's Iliad? So, there's some tidbits in there. You have Homer's famous story, and you have an ancient city, but there are some things that you could do to it. Does anybody know the answer to that? No?
In the meantime, we have a question.
Okay.
While people are thinking about the answer to that. How do you break down how many types of each category you use per show?
Oh, that is a very good question. So as trivia players know, we do try to separate it and spread out as much as we can to have as many categories as possible. And if we do have questions that relate to each other but fall into different categories, kind of put one of those questions early in the first half and one of them late in the second half. But just making sure that it's well-rounded is very important because, like I mentioned earlier with the sports thing, some people don't really like sports. So if you had 4 sports questions in a show, that wouldn't be very much fun for the person who doesn't like sports. But at the same time, there are people who do like sports, so you want to make sure that you're including everybody. And we do kind of, for the finals and the halftimes, we keep note of which category is used on which day of the week to make sure that we don't say, oh, okay, well, every Wednesday in July, there was a sports question for the halftime. So I'm using sports a lot, but that's kind of the gist of it, is just making sure that, we have a well-rounded show that has a lot of different categories, but at the same time, if there are multiple questions that are similar in nature, to make sure those are spread out as well.
Looks like we have a guess to your question about the ancient city. Joey guessed that it is Pompeii.
It is not Pompeii. It is Troy. Troy is the answer. So, a good thing to add to that maybe would have been, what role did Troy play in the Iliad? Which, you would also need to know the story, but you would also have a little bit of background on what role it played in the story. So that's that for history. Music, the 6th question from the show. What band, and I think Joey's going to like this one, what band has album titles such as Bleach, In Utero, and Incesticide? Anybody have an answer for that one? All right. Well, this band, I think we actually may have had in a recent question, or at least in the past year or so. They released a different album that is much better known in the early 90s, and the record company actually had to stop pressing CDs of, I believe, all of the other artists that they worked with. Got a question?
It looks like 2 people may have guessed this correctly, if I'm correct as well. Is it Nirvana?
It is Nirvana.
Good job to both Nathan and Kara for getting that one right.
Right. So, their record company had to stop pressing albums of other artists because there was such a high demand for Nevermind, another album that probably would have given away the answer. So Nevermind wasn't included in that and wouldn't be included nowadays, but the fact that, you know, maybe say another album by the same band caused, you know, the whole halt in production of the other CDs. So that's a couple questions from our first show. I now am going to ask you guys if you have any questions that you want to give the I don't know, the last call treatment to see, you know, the story, to make it into, instead of just a what is this, into kind of a storytelling question that gives hints throughout.
Anthony asks, where's the rest of his team when he needs them?
Where's the rest of Anthony's team when he needs them? I don't know, Anthony. Where are you guys at? So, but yeah, so again, the storytelling is the most important part of a trivia question, and making sure that you give people more than just the basics.
We have a question for you, Dave. How long have you been a part of the writing team, and what improvements have you seen over the years since you joined?
Oh gosh, I have been part of the writing team since 2012. It was in 2012. It was part-time, and then moved into, you know, more roles with Last Call, including writing team stuff ever since 2012. Improvements I've seen. The storytelling in questions is a big thing, and not being so obscure. There are some questions back then that were really, really obscure, and they were correct. You know, they had content to them, but they were just kind of, you would have to be really, really good at certain categories to know the answers to them. And I think over the years, we're always improving. But over the years, we've gotten better at kind of nailing down what people know and how deep into a category we can get.
Brooklyn wants to know that since you've been writing 5 years of trivia questions, do you know everything?
I do not know everything, and actually, it's kind of, sometimes I think about it, it's kind of been the reverse, because I look at so much stuff every day, and I see, you know, so many different shows. You know, we put 7 different shows out a week, and there are 18 regular questions a day, so I'm looking at, you know, 7 times 18 a week.
And what's the answer to that number?
Oh God, you're asking me to do math. It's 56. Is it 100? 126?
Someone could confirm that. That would be great. We have another question. How about the theme shows that we've done recently, like Star Wars and Disney and Decades and our upcoming Harry Potter show? Are those harder for you to write, or are they more challenging, or less? And why do you feel that way?
Can I say both? It's kind of both, because, you know, all of the shows recently, the theme shows, have been on topics that people absolutely adore. You know, like Star Wars. If you go online and look at Star Wars information, or trying to find databases of Star Wars information, there is everything from, you know, a character that appeared for 5 minutes in one of the cartoon series to, you know, one of the big plots of one of the films or all of the films. So there's a lot of information, but asking how many of something happened, if that makes sense, is tough. Like how many times did so and so appear in the film, or how many Disney princesses did this? It's very hard to confirm, you know, that number. So that's both.
Brooklyn wanted you to know that 126 was correct. So
oh, wow.
Good job on your math skills on the dot there. But don't let that influence this next question.
Oh, jeez.
Who is your favorite team member here at Last Call?
Oh, boy. I love all of them. They're all wonderful.
I'm holding the camera. I just want to remind you of that.
Aiden is holding the camera.
Now, how about this? Since you also host, do you prefer hosting or writing trivia shows?
Those are some hardballs. I'm gonna have to default to both again. I really enjoy interacting with people at bars and restaurants, and just getting their take on the questions, getting heckled. Learning people's life stories. It's amazing that the things that people share with you as a trivia host, and I couldn't ask for a better group of teams everywhere too, not just the bars that I've been, but hearing stories from other hosts and being at semifinals and finals events. It's just all of the teams are amazing. So it's both. I really like writing too.
So looking at that very first show ever, it looks like question 12 could be one of those questions that is time sensitive. So what are the dangers in writing a question like that where it's, based on the time that it's being written? And if you want to share that with us, what that question is.
The question is, what commercial characters recently got their own TV sitcom, which debuts on ABC this fall? So remember, this was just August of 2007. Anybody know the answer to that? I'm going to guess that nobody knows. Anything? Nobody's. It's Cavemen. So the Geico Cavemen. There are a lot of dangers. I'm sure some of the people watching have recently. We've used a couple. Like YouTube, how many views a YouTube video has for a bonus question, and that changes. So sometimes we add the date, as of this date, blah blah blah. But it's really just making sure that there's no way it can change from the time that the question's written and sent to hosts to the time that the show happens. I mean, things do happen, and things greatly change. For the Chicago Cubs just won the World Series for the first, not just, but recently won the World Series for the first time in 108 years or whatever. And so you got to make sure that it stays time sensitive and it stays correct. But there really aren't too many dangers.
It turns out that Amber actually knew the answer. She just said she was too slow at typing, so Amber did know it was Caveman.
Sorry, Amber. Good job, though. That's. I remember that TV show.
We have a request asking if you would post some of the questions from our very first show ever, and what of those questions you might transform it into today. In other words, if we could see the original show, and then what you might do to make it, more last call today.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. We'll get that uploaded and over to you guys. So, well, we've been talking to you for a while.
When's the next time that you're gonna be live here for us, Dave?
We'll be live next Wednesday again at noon. So yeah, we're gonna do some similar things about what the questions are about, what the content of the questions. But we're going to think of some other stuff before next Wednesday, but I can't tell you yet because you got to tune in. So I think that'll do it for us this week. Thank you very, very much for checking in, guys. I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your week and a wonderful lunch. Have a great day. And if you are in Cincinnati, come to Game On tonight. I'll be hosting from 8 to 10. So have a good one, guys. Take it easy.